leading to compressor burnout, all start with regular maintenance. Now that we've got this unit clean, this unit is going to last a lot longer than it normally would otherwise. So now let's cut to the chase and talk about which brands technicians voted on as being the best in the US.
And for links to all of these refrigerator models, make sure to check the product tags in the description, as we will try to make sure all of them are there.
For the technician survey I did, which had nearly 200 techs respond, GE actually came out on top as voted the most reliable refrigerator on the market, beating out Whirlpool but just by a few percentage points. But the common argument made by techs involving refrigerators is that every manufacturer has good refrigerator models and bad refrigerator models, so let's go over the good and the bad for the next few minutes. On French door refrigerators, the only two that I could find at my local hardware store that were actually made in America was the Whirlpool WRF535S and the KitchenAid KRFC300E refrigerators. Now, neither of these units had indoor water and ice in them, which is what we are absolutely looking for, and these models are referred to by techs as a Jazzboard model refrigerator. They have one single evaporator system in the entire refrigerator, and they are less mechanically complex to operate from a basic level, and techs love that specific model, and you know that it's a Jazzboard by the interface at the top, which of course you're seeing on the screen. These style refrigerators have been around on the US market for 10 years, and the truth is we don't see very many of them come into our shop because people are not seemingly throwing them away very often. Now, that isn't to say that every Whirlpool refrigerator is good, because it's not. The more complex KitchenAid and Whirlpool models that have 4 and 5 doors with the indoor water and ice are absolutely terrible to deal with. Technicians tend to deride those systems, again, especially if they have ice in the door, for many failures involved with both the ice maker, but also the sealed system as well. And even though I didn't see any on my trip, GE does in fact make quite a few US models. GE's PWE23K or GNE29G refrigerators are probably considered the largest capacity refrigerators you can find that are counter depth or full size on the market. They're actually made in the US with no indoor or water or ice. And personally, if you were going to not compromise on ice and water in the door, I would suggest a GE over an LG, Samsung, or a Whirlpool of any model and style. They actually have the LG ice makers in them, which are relatively good for a bad part, but otherwise they're single evaporator and they tend to run better, and that's why GE's got #1 on our list from all techs, or at least that's my opinion. Even Samsung refrigerators, like from their Bespoke series, are not terrible units if you actually try to avoid the ice in the door. Low-key, it seems like Samsung has realized how horrible their ice making systems are and have replaced them with beverage dispensers in the doors, which look cool and operate way better because you can get away with water in the door, but not ice. Most techs will tell you that Samsung's sealed systems and compressors are actually pretty well designed, as well as their electronics, which means that if you have to fix one, it tends not to be an extensive, horrible costing problem, but it all hinges on ditching the ice maker. But of all the indoor ice units, Samsung's are by far the worst of the bunch. Now, if you're looking for higher end refrigerators beyond the residential type, Sub-Zero and Viking are two of the best units on the market that you can buy if you can afford them. I definitely would suggest either those two brands over the GE Monogram, or especially the KitchenAid refrigerators. They tend to be more basic and will last typically dozens of years, just again because they're operationally not very complex and are extremely well built. You're going to pay quite a bit for those premium models, but if you have the money and don't want to ever mess around with a refrigerator and swapping it out, those two brands are definitely the way to go. Now, for side-by-side refrigerators, the one advantage they have is you can actually do the indoor water and ice and not have too many problems with that. Because it's in the freezer, it's naturally built to cool properly, and you can get the frozen ice without having too many problems. Now, ice makers by nature do have problems, but you're going to face so many less problems with it being in the freezer than you are the refrigerator. Now, one kind of catch with the side-by-side refrigerators, though, is that since they are sometimes considered a cheaper run of refrigerator, I was not able to find any made in America side-by-sides at my local big box store. However, I can tell you that Whirlpool Maytag makes a good side-by-side that is built in the US, like the WRS325SD, and anything from that line with or without ice maker seems to be pretty decent. Frigidaire also makes a very basic, neat side-by-side refrigerator in the FRSG 1915. Now, I don't know if they make those in a larger model than the 19 cubic foot, which is a counter depth, but I was amazed when I looked the schematic up on them. They may be the most simple refrigerator on the market. And again, here's a picture of the schematic of that FRSG 1915 versus the KitchenAid high-end. A little bit different on the complexity there, guys, right? That would tell me that the Frigidaire is probably going to be a little bit better on maintenance or failures. However, it is made in Mexico. I don't think that one's made in the US because most Frigidaires I don't think have a US line anymore. I've done a few YouTube videos on GE GSS25 refrigerators, and again, they're made in Mexico, but I've been really happy with the build quality when I had to tear them down for my videos. According to GE's website, they come in a lot of different colors, including a biscuit colored refrigerator. I don't know why they're making a comeback. You may want to consider one of those. I am a big fan. Now for freezer tops, I've been really rosy on Whirlpool refrigerators, and I've even done some Whirlpool tests on their Matrix style refrigerators, but I would absolutely not suggest Whirlpool top freezer refrigerators, even if they were made in the US, although I think they don't. Most technicians are very wary right now of Whirlpool brand refrigerators because of refrigerant sealed system issues as well as control board issues. We have had to junk more Whirlpool refrigerators that are freezer tops than any other brand lately. I'm going to get a lot of hate comments saying that I'm biased against them or something of that nature, but I have to be honest, we've thrown away so many, it's ridiculous. And I'm super biased for my Frigidaire FFTR 1835WV3. It has a mechanical timer. It is the most simple refrigerator on the market. But I will also tell you, of the freezer tops that I know of, because I had to do a lot of research, GE is the only company that I'm aware of that still makes a freezer top made in the United States. You can go to their website and you can look up models like the GTS 19K or the GTS 22K, which look pretty darn good, and they are available in some big box stores, but not the one I went to for my videos. Techs generally swear by GE being on average the most reliable system in 2022, as long as you don't get an overly complex system. And if I was going to offer you advice on which refrigerator I would want to buy, I would probably just go out and buy 2 GE freezer top refrigerators, go ahead and offset the doors to where they all swing in the middle, and make myself a redneck, homegrown 4-door refrigerator, throw an ice maker in one unit and then not in the other, and then have all the space and room I would want with the reliability or cost considerations of a standard plain freezer top refrigerator. And I think either Frigidaire or GE would be a good choice for that.
Now for our European friends, I know you're probably mad at me because I have not answered any questions about European units. The truth is, I don't service a lot of European units, so my opinions or beliefs, suspect, I guess I'd say. But of course, techs talk about different makes and models from other units across the pond. And 2 of the brands that always get discussed as having very high marks are both Miele and Liebherr, which are German manufacturers. I'm definitely partial to how Liebherr, they construct their units. They are very minimalistic in what they add for their components, and they seem to have extremely high marks from technicians, not having to repair them often, although most techs will complain that they are not cheap or easy to fix due to how it takes to tear them apart. Both, unfortunately, in a way, cost quite a bit more money that you get what you pay for, and they're going to last a whole lot longer. Other companies tend to be kind of suspect. Beko makes an okay unit. AEG Electrolux, we have that as Frigidaire in the US, and their units, as long as they are simplistic, seem to be very, very well done. And I would imagine that you would get a great step up in quality if your Electrolux unit is actually manufactured somewhere in Europe under stricter quality controls. But always look at the manufacturer of origin to see where the quality controls lie. The poorer the country, the more suspect the quality controls are. The components may still be from the same place in China, but at least better hands may have worked on the sealed system, and that's usually where all of the major worst problems end up coming from, is a poorly built or poorly constructed sealed system unit. Now, one other brand we have not talked about in this video, which is worldwide, is LG. I've intentionally left them out because there's been a multi-year controversy, even my last video I discussed with LG, to where they have had lawsuits or huge difficulties with their compressor. Their linear compressor is incredibly efficient, and it's a very nice unit for refrigerators, but they're poorly built. Reminds me a lot of the Xbox 360 fiasco. There are some problems with those units that have plagued them for years, and I think they are coming out of those problems. And if they had a clean bill of health from a local appliance shop where you're at that can vouch for the fact the sealed system issues are fixed, they would immediately go to the top of the list, but I can't say that that's the case in good conscience. Another US brand that I've sidestepped and haven't mentioned in this is Kenmore. The thing about Kenmore, and I've talked about this in other videos, is Kenmore gets other manufacturers to make their appliances. For a very long time, their refrigerators were either Frigidaire, Amana, or in some cases GE, and they were incredibly well built to very high tolerance standards. But within the past 10 to 12 years, those standards that were amazing for Kenmore have plummeted. They got LG to start manufacturing the refrigerators when the linear compressor started being a problem. And then more recently, they've switched from LG to Daewoo, which is an even lower brand, which they may have good fridges in Korea, but the ones that are here in the United States for their French door models, but they have very common freezer fan problems. And the issue with those freezer fan problems is it ices up the unit, it ruins it. And then we have found out that it's very, very difficult to get Daewoo parts in the United States. And I can't recommend any sort of Kenmore because their quality has dropped. And that's everything that I have for you guys today on a video regarding refrigerators. Maybe it's not exactly what you wanted, but it's what you got, much like Game of Thrones Season 8. But hopefully this video wasn't nearly that disappointing. Again, you as the purchaser need to take care and maintain your refrigerator. Make sure your clearances are good. Make sure you clean the coils underneath. And any refrigerator you get is going to last a lot longer. Always be aware of where your refrigerator is made, what features it has, and again, the brand name matters, but not as much as you would think, which is definitely a surprise. Have a great day. And remember the amazing sale that Atlas VPN, our sponsor, has in the description and